Welcome to Medical Marijuana and Wellness. Today's topic is terpenes, the key to medical marijuana. Probably one of the most important compounds in cannabis to understand, especially from a medical marijuana standpoint. Today, I'm going to be joined by Amy Green, an RN at MMTC of Florida. And I do want to point out to everybody, this is a presentation for information purposes. Naturally, if you need any medical advice, please contact your physician or your medical marijuana doctor. Amy, let's talk terpenes. What are terpenes?
Sure. So terpenes are going to be the fat-loving compound that give cannabis its smell and its taste. So these are naturally occurring compounds that are also found in flowers, spices, fruits, vegetables, and essential oils. So this is what gives those products what they smell like and what they taste like.
Yeah, really interesting, because this is where the medical benefits from medical cannabis comes from. And it's actually something that the plant uses while it's growing to defend itself from fungus, insects, pests, and that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the plant's natural defense mechanisms against all of those things.
Yeah, all the aroma and a lot of the taste comes from that you'll see here. When we talk about terpenes, there's terpenes and then there's terpenoids. One has undergone oxidation or been dried and one hasn't. What's interesting is that when you look at the world of cannabis, I tend to look at cannabis as a whole medicine cabinet that includes not only cannabinoids, but also the terpenes. And I think people don't pay enough attention to terpenes because those working together produce the entourage effect. And Amy, what's the entourage effect?
Sure. So the entourage effect is when you have the combination of cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids, which are also smell and taste compounds found in cannabis. When all of these compounds are working together, you end up with really nice synergistic effects. And that's really what's going to give you the benefits from medical cannabis.
That's really the magic of medical cannabis. So when you're looking at cannabis itself, it's terpenes and cannabinoids and flavonoids all really working together. That's what it's made up of. And again, that creates that entourage effect that you were just talking about. And a couple of examples are when people are starting to learn how to dose, I recommend keeping some CBD oil around so that if you're starting to begin to feel the psychoactive effects of THC, you can take some CBD and it'll really calm you down or bring you back down.
Yeah, absolutely. THC and CBD really work very well together. And especially for new patients, I always recommend starting with a ratio product. It's going to be a little bit easier to deal with any side effects, such as that high feeling, just because it's not going to be as strong and it's going to be better well controlled by the CBD.
Sure. So terpenes are very, very important. There are cannabis-derived terpenes, of which we know there's over 200 of them. Really, only about 100 of them are being studied right now. But why don't you explain the pros and cons of the cannabis-derived terpenes?
Yeah, so there are two different ways that terpenes can be derived. One is going to be from the cannabis plant. The hard thing with this is it is a difficult process because the cannabis plant only naturally produces small amounts of these compounds. So it is difficult to extract the terpenes in large amounts. So when you have cannabis-derived terpenes, they are going to be in the ratio that plant produced it. But again, you are limited to whatever that plant is producing.
Sure. And that's why it makes it pretty, let's say, a lot costlier than really botanical-derived terpenes, which can come from almost any plant that's out there.
Sure. So take, for example, lemons. Lemons contain a terpene called limonene. And from that, the limonene can be extracted and then sold as just concentrated limonene. It's a lot easier to produce or extract botanical terpenes than it is to extract terpenes from cannabis.
Sure. And, and it's interesting because high quality botanical derived terpenes or BDTs are really difficult to find. There's a lot of terpenes out there, but the high quality ones are there. And actually the number of practitioners in the state of that know how to use it are very limited. I mean, in the state of Florida, I only know 4. And in the United States, I only know 6. So maybe I should just get out more. I don't know, but it's something that this is a little bit of magic, but something that's really, really important. I do want to point out, and they're not trying to have everybody read this whole table. This is an example of all the terpenes that are found in cannabis. And again, there's over 200 of them that have been identified. About 100 of them are being studied. And again, in nature, there's about 20,000 of them that have been studied. So let's dig down and talk terpenes. Talk to me about some of your favorites and why they work.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely my favorite terpene is myrcene. That's just one that I really, really like. However, it's not always the most prevalent. Limonene and beta-caryophyllene are two of the most common terpenes. So a little bit about limonene. This is going to be a fruity or citrusy terpene. That's the aroma that you'll get from it. However, the effects are really great for lifting your mood, relieving stress and anxiety, anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant, and it's really great at relieving heartburn, gastric reflux, and it helps support digestion. So limonene is just a terpene, but it has a whole lot of benefits.
Right. And here's some of the cultivars or strains that you'll find that it's in. And we'll talk about temperatures later, but this is a good idea that, going back to myrcene, is probably one of the most commonly found terpenes in cannabis. Not only is it anti-inflammatory, but it's also a muscle relaxant and sedative, which really helps quite a bit with stress and anxiety.
Absolutely. It can be a really great choice to find a cultivar that you want to use in the evening time if you're looking for relaxation or to help you get to sleep. Something that has a high percentage of myrcene can definitely give you those benefits that you're looking for.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sure. So another one that I really love is pinene, and that's going to be that rich pine smell, like you're walking through a pine forest. Really great for pain, really great for stress and anxiety, anti-inflammatory, and it can also improve or help improve short-term memory. But really, it's that strong smell that you get from rosemary, basil, pine trees.
Sure. And when you talk about improved short-term memory, it does do that. If PTS is one of the issues that you're looking for, you may want to go easy on or just try to avoid pinene just to be safe. Also, when you talk about bronchial inhaler, I think it's important to point out cannabis works very much like bronchial inhalers that we have in pharma drugs. It's something that has been designed and can be used with your lungs, very different than smoking as we know it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, cannabis has been shown to be an effective bronchodilator, and part of that is the terpenes that are in that specific strain that a person is using. For example, alpha-pinene has been shown to be an effective bronchodilator and help open up the airways.
Right. And linalool is one of the big favorites.
Yeah, so linalool is what you think of when you smell lavender. It has a strong lavender smell. It's really great for elevating your mood, stress, anxiety, really great for insomnia and improving the quality of your sleep. It also has sedative effects, and it can be used for pain, antifungal, or antimicrobial uses.
So that, like an antifungal and antimicrobial. Humulene is one that's not known very popular from the standpoint of the press, but it really has some not only earthy tones, but it helps with a lot of different conditions.
Absolutely. So humulene is that smell that we associate with hops and tobacco, ginseng, cilantro. It's that deep, earthy smell, really great for inflammation, antibacterial, antifungal. And it's also been shown to help suppress appetite. So if somebody is worried about getting the quote unquote munchies when they're using cannabis product, if you're looking for strains or cultivars that are higher in humulene, it can help suppress that stimulated appetite.
Sure. Now, there's a couple others that you mentioned, beta-caryophyllene earlier. Why don't we start there? Because that's one of your favorites as well.
Yeah, it really is. So this is going to be that spicy, earthy, woody smell that you'll get with black pepper, cinnamon, oregano, and cloves. And that specific terpene is great for its anti-inflammatory and pain relieving effects. It's also a powerful antidepressant, great for alcohol cravings, relieving stress and anxiety, and it may also augment some types of chemotherapy. So this is a very powerful terpene.
Yeah, now that's kind of important for a lot of people, fortunate or unfortunately. Terpenoline is interesting. Why don't you start with that one?
Sure. So terpenoline is going to have a floral, fresh, woody smell similar to lilacs, apples, nutmeg, or cumin. It's really great for elevating the mood. Its antibacterial, antifungal, antimicrobial properties also has been shown to have antioxidant activity, and it may help reduce the proliferation of cancer cells in the body.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Citronella. So why don't you start there?
Sir, so citronella is going to have a bright, fresh scent to it. It's what you might associate with citronella, basil, catnip, eucalyptus, ginger. Has almost that sharp smell. So it can possibly be a neuroprotectant. It does have anticonvulsant properties. It has been shown to have bronchodilator properties. It has antiseptic, antifungal properties, and it's a great anti-inflammatory. And it may help with hypertension or high blood pressure.
Yeah, that's great. And phytol is really interesting as well.
Sure. So that's going to have a floral, balsamic, grassy smell. It's what you would smell if you can think of green tea, that smell. So very earthy, but very subtle. It's great for relieving stress and anxiety, anti-inflammatory, pain relief. It is an antioxidant. It does have sedative properties, so it can help with relaxation or with getting asleep and staying asleep. And then it can also help with convulsions. So if somebody has a seizure disorder or an epilepsy disorder, it can help with controlling seizures.
Yeah. And one of my favorites is eucalyptol.
Yeah, absolutely. This is that mint smell. So this is what you'll find in eucalyptus, cardamom, tea tree oil, and sage. So it has a very pungent smell to it. Great antifungal properties. It has been shown to have pain relieving properties. It may help reduce blood pressure. It is a great anti-inflammatory. It may also help with sinus infections, and it may also help improve cognitive function for those with dementia.
Now, that's very interesting itself. One of the questions is, how do you find what terpenes are inside the product you're looking at? And this is where the certificate of analysis comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically in the state of Florida, any product sold in a dispensary must be accompanied by a certificate of analysis. So anytime you're purchasing a product, whether that is a gummy or it's a concentrate or flower, they have to be able to produce a certificate analysis for you. And that's going to give you a lot of important information, not only the total amount of cannabinoids in that product, but specifically the breakdown of terpenes in that product. So on this example, we can see that there's a lot of limonene, and then farnesene is going to be the second largest terpene, followed by linalool, carotene, alpha-humulene, sabanine. And all of these terpenes combined together are what's giving that specific cultivar or strain of cannabis its properties. So this is what's going to give you those pain relieving properties, the anti-inflammatory, the antioxidant effects. It's going to be down to what terpenes are in that specific product.
And as you mentioned, any product that you buy from a dispensary here in Florida, you can ask for the certificate of analysis and they'll be able to produce that for you. In fact, I think they're putting QR codes on most of the products so you can actually look it up with your cell phone.
Yeah, I have seen that, and it's way easier for patients to then find the information that they're looking for and find that particular product that's going to work very well for them.
Mm-hmm. And then this goes back to the different routes of administration. And I know we just finished a webinar on this, and I'm going to refer people back to that webinar to go through each of these different routes of administration. But again, when you're looking at these particular products, go back and get the COAs so you know exactly what terpenes are going to fit into this profile. But I do want to highlight a couple, at least a couple of them down here: the inhalation, the flower, and the concentrates. When you're looking for how do I get the best terpenes out of that, that relates to the temperature that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're using something like flower, you're using the flower of the plant, the temperature that you apply to that product is going to change how much THC is released, how much terpenes are released, and how much of those substances are burned off in the process. So when you apply low heat, you're going to get more terpenes. It's going to have a lot stronger smell and taste, but you might be getting a slightly lower level of THC in that dose. Versus a high dose, you're going to get a higher THC dose, but you might have slightly less terpenes because they tend to burn off at a lower temperature.
Yeah, and this not only applies to flower, but when you're using a flower vaporizer, but it also applies if you're using concentrates. Because one of the reasons why you go to a concentrate, a rosin, a resin, hash, something like that, is to be able to take advantage of the terpenes. And again, you have on your terpene pen, you have usually at least 3 settings and sometimes 4, the low, medium, and high. And this corresponds to those 3 settings.
Yeah, and you're totally right. It is not just flower. You will find this is very helpful when you're using a vape pen, when you're using a dab pen or a dab rig. The temperature that you choose to use your product at, it does make a difference for how that product is going to work for you.
Sure. Well, listen, any final comments, Amy?
No, I think we've covered it. But if you do have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the question and answer section or stop by Marijuana Aware and check out some of the previous webinars that we've done on these topics.
Yeah, you can also send us an email to events@marijuanaaware.com. And more importantly, follow us on social media. We have not only this webinar or this particular video, but other videos that, like, for example, routes of administration and the basics of medical marijuana. Thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at the webinars.